Armageddon, Pearl Harbor, Pretty Woman, The Waterboy, The Sixth Sense. If I were to tell you that these films were all made by the Walt Disney Company, would you believe me? Well, these movies, amongst hundreds of others, were in fact Walt Disney productions, released through their production labels Touchstone and Hollywood Pictures between 1984 and 2010. If you're surprised to learn that these production companies are Disney properties, or furthermore, surprised to learn that the two aren't actually production companies at all, you're not alone. And the fact that you may find yourself a little perplexed by this is, well, completely normal. In fact, the mere existence of both Touchstone and Hollywood Pictures is to have this exact effect on you. Though I have spoken about both a number of times in my videos, I've never really delved into them in depth. So please allow me to set the record straight with this installment of Explaining Disney. One of the most common misconceptions I read about Touchstone and Hollywood Pictures is that they are subsidiaries of the Walt Disney Company. Studios that the company acquired much in the same way as they did Pixar, Lucasfilm, or Marvel. However, Touchstone and Hollywood are two divisions that actually originated at Disney. Though despite what some may think, they were never actually formed as actual production companies or studios, but instead banners or labels for movies wholly and completely made, produced, and distributed by Disney. That's right, Touchstone and Hollywood are not separate entities of Disney, they are Disney. Think of these two banners as pseudonyms or pen names, an assumed name a writer may publish one of their works under, but they don't want the general public to know they are the genuine author of the text. Much like how J.K. Rowling often publishes crime novels under the name Robert Galbraith as a way for her more adult novels to be, perhaps unknowingly, judged separately from her children's works, or how Stephen King occasionally releases novels as Richard Bachman, as a way to prevent the saturation of the market with too many Stephen King publications. In fact, Touchstone and Hollywood Pictures were practically conceived by Disney for these exact reasons. In the late 1970s, early 1980s, Disney released their first string of PG-rated films in an experiment which aimed to see how more mature Disney features will be received by the public. While their first PG release, The Black Hole, would make $9.8 million profit at the box office, the following releases would lose the studio an accumulative $69.5 million, the equivalent of around $182 million adjusted for inflation in 2018. Suffice to say, the experiment didn't really have the desired outcome. In an article from the mid-1980s, the New York Times would call the Disney name box office poison, and note that teenagers, the largest segment of the movie-going public, had become disinterested in anything with the Disney branding on it. It became clear to the studio that the public perception of Disney films was that they were aimed at children and families, and that older audiences were no longer interested in seeing their films. So, with one last bit of experimentation, the company released PG film Cry Wolf in 1983, but restrained from using the Disney name prominently in its marketing material and withheld any imagery that might come off as Disney-esque in its trailers. Unsurprisingly, the movie was very well received and pulled in a $27.3 million box office taking on a budget of only $11 million. The following year, in 1984, Touchstone Pictures was born. Devised as a pen name or pseudonym, or what they'd like to call a label, that would be used to disguise the Disney name on their PG-rated movies. No movies released under Touchstone would feature the Disney branding on marketing materials or anywhere in the film itself, and as a result, Disney's first handful of Touchstone pictures were enormous successes, with their first film, Splash, grossing close to $70 million alone on an $8 million budget. With the Touchstone banner, it would also allow Disney to later push further boundaries by producing PG-13 and even R-rated movies, without worrying that the public would accidentally take their children to an adult film branded as a Disney production. Thanks to their enormous Touchstone output and incredible audience reaction to their features over the next few years, by 1988 Disney were beating all major studios at the box office, selling more tickets and taking in more money than all of them. The success of Touchstone's films opened up another problem for Disney though. At a time where many film studios were going out of business, the large number of Touchstone films that were releasing every year by the late 1980s meant that Disney ran the risk of saturating the market with too much Touchstone content. So in 1989, 1989, Hollywood Pictures, Disney's second banner, was formed, which not only filled a void left from less film production in Hollywood at the time, but would also allow Disney to double their film output without being seen as dominating the multiplexes. Touchstone and Hollywood Pictures remained active production banners for Disney until 2010 and 2007 respectively, though the Touchstone banner would continuously be used actively for the distribution of a number of DreamWorks pictures in a 5-year distribution deal between 2011 and 2016. In more recent years, Disney's current CEO Bob Iger has changed the direction of the studio so as to focus more heavily on family entertainment, which has once again become a profitable market, as well as on its big blockbuster fare from Lucasfilm and Marvel Studios. These days, Disney does release PG and PG-13 rated films under their own banners, with the lucrative Pirates of the Caribbean franchise proving that modern audiences trust and embrace the brand enough to see their more mature fare. And a handful of Touchstone's family-friendly movies, which had become undisputed iconic classics, would even be reissued under the Disney banner on home media and for theatrical re-releases in later years. However, for the time, the Touchstone and Hollywood banners certainly did work. I mean, could you imagine any of these big movies having been half as successful if they were marketed as Disney Pictures? Yeah, I didn't think so either. If this is your first time viewing one of my videos, you like what you've seen, you'd like to see more like this in the future, then please don't forget to hit that big old subscribe button up on your screen right now, and also hit that like button down below if you're feeling extra generous. Also, don't forget to check out my many social media accounts, and please consider supporting me over on Patreon. Thanks for watching, guys, and I hope you have a wonderful day.